All right, the Kanki discussion that everyone's been waiting for. Here with Druko and Twali isn't here for this one
Let's
actually.
go, bro. Toilet got axed. The streets are saying homie was too aggressive in the last video, being too disrespectful. So like, that the powers that be came and smited him down. That's what happens when he fucking messes with Druko and HD.
Yo, he's actually online. He might just randomly drop in here.
Alright, bro. See what happens if he drops in.
But yeah, the truth is we called him T Whale one too many times, and he's just like,
And he
all right,
got
fuck
mad.
these niggas. I'm not being called T Whale. Fuck this shit.
It's like, bro, at least Druko kind of sounds dope, but T Whale, man, what? You call this
Yeah,
nigga
that was
fat?
just too disrespectful.
Yeah.
Even if it's not calling him fat, it just sounds retarded. But nah, I'm just trying to do a Draco because I'm trying to make a more concise version, and I don't want the vibe of this to be just arguing and like not like aggressive arguing, but like arguing over semantics. Like, even if it's
Yeah.
not aggressive, I don't want it to last too long. And if Tolly he'll probably see this video after the fact, and I'm guessing he'll have something to say about it. So
Of
we'll do like
course.
part two after the more cancerous version.
Yeah.
So yeah, for the time being, we're just gonna do like a concise version. Aim for it to be like around half an hour long. We'll see. But yeah, so we're basically gonna mention all of Kanki's feats, or most of them. We're probably not gonna talk about him going into Gyo, cause fuck that. And basically just in terms of intelligence and where it sets him, it's not really so much to compare him to other characters. It's just trying to talk about how impressive the feats are standalone. Though it's kind of hard to do that without comparing it in some cases, but we'll try to get by. So let's just go into what makes for a good strategy or a good intelligence feat first. So
Okay.
intricacy is one aspect. How hard the timing is to pull off is another one. How realistic the situation seems and how unique it is. I'm just going to go off those four things for now. Maybe there's some other aspects that someone wants to recommend. But basically, like, when it comes to how far-fetched someone thinking of something is, like, intricacy plays a part into it, but it's not everything. Like, basically the most important aspect is how realistic a situation seems, because if there's something that seems off, you're going to assume that, like, for example, like, if there's a great strategist going up against another great strategist, and they're doing a bunch of good moves that you'd expect them to do, and they do this one, like, off thing, and you're like, this is a stupid move. Like, why would they do that? And you like, obviously, well, there must be, like, some underlying purpose to this, because, like, obviously they
Funny you
wouldn't,
bring that up.
yeah, well, one situation is, like, Oki and Fuki.
Yeah.
Like, when, what's his face, Fuki came to the sides and, like, wanted to flank with the arrows, pretty
Yeah.
much Oki purposely, he let that happen. And because Fuki isn't that smart, he didn't realize this is too easy. There's probably something wrong with this. Like, his reaction instead was, these kin idiots. But that would be like one situation where it's like, of course, Oki, he wouldn't just fall for a basic flank like that. Like, there has to be something wrong, some underlying purpose to this.
Okay.
And yeah, that's what I mean. Like, if you can make a situation seem realistic, like you're like, nothing here is out of the blue, everything here seems to make sense, it can be intricate, but it's not really necessary. But like, let's say there's two situations where it seems super far-fetched for someone to come up with something because it's a really realistic situation, but one is more intricate. I mean, I guess you could argue the intricate one, it takes more skill to develop, even though they might be like equally effective. But I'm just saying, like, in general, something being more intricate doesn't necessarily mean it takes more intelligence to pull off. But intricacy in itself, of course, since there's more factors to take into account, if all things are equal, then something being more intricate would probably be more impressive. And timing is just that mostly comes from experience, but being able to like apply it to such a precise degree, that obviously takes a lot of skill. But yeah, so we'll just go into his feats. The first one is the Gempo one. Do you want me to go
Give me
or
a
do you want to
second.
go?
Give me a second. Someone knocked on my door.
All right. Well, this is not ideal. This is not ideal at all. I kind of want to just talk so there isn't like a weird gap in it, but I don't want Draco to miss what I'm saying at the same time. So
We back. We
fuck.
back. Let's go.
All
So
right,
yeah, I
word.
heard what you were saying about. I mean, I want to see. I want. Okay, you can talk about it, and I'll interject in ways that then you're not giving it enough credit, But you can talk about it, yeah.
All right.
Over.
So the main thing about this strategy, well, the main reason people downplay it is it's not that intricate. It's just
Yeah.
he goes to the HQ and it's like, all right, I'm gonna attack then at this specific timing. And so yeah, it doesn't have intricacy, but the main reason why this is a good strategy is because he knew that Genpo, he felt so secure with Kaishibo being at his HQ that counterattacking at a time like that where you're like your neck is pretty much on the line. And this is why I compare it to the Cho'Garu situation, because it's like very similar reasoning where you would expect if you're on the brink of collapsing someone's HQ, like their main thought would be, I gotta get out of here, like I can't die to this person. They wouldn't be like immediately thinking counterattack. I'm gonna
Yeah,
find a way to turn the situation around. Like of course people can think about that, but it takes a real like daring person to do something like that, and they
yeah,
have to have a good strategy on top of that. They can't just be daring. So it's something that can definitely catch people off guard, and that was the main reason why that was impressive. But
yeah.
also, it did say Genpo was underestimating Kanki, so there's that as well. But
I
pretty
don't even
much,
know like underestimating. I just feel like I mean underestimating is like a it's like a term used a lot, and I kind of find it annoying. 'Cause even though you're giving props to the person, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about just in the story itself. Even though you're giving props to the person, you always gotta like make it seem like, hey, don't get way too excited. This guy just slept on him, but I feel like like the only reason he slept on him, I don't even know. Even if he knew of Kanki, like let's say you tell him Kanki is like a 6 GG general, right? It's like he's Oki. I don't think he still would expect what happened. I just don't, cause I just like the way you were explaining shit. You like how he's fucking. It's not. It's he's underestimating him in the sense of his like his style. He doesn't know much of it, but he's not underestimating him. Like, wow, this guy was not that good to do this type beat, in my opinion. Because I don't even think the best of generals would do what Kanki does. It's just he's that special type that would be daring enough to do it.
well, I'm mainly just bringing it up because Moten said it, and you could just see from the way Genpo just carries himself that he's a cocky bastard. So that's mainly why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah, that's but that like I used it to like talk about a broader thing. It's just like it's used a lot to like say he underestimated him to kind of just save some face for the guy that got beat. But in reality, it's just even if he didn't underestimate him, sometimes you could just like isn't like every defeat an underestimation because you thought you were gonna win but you didn't. Like I don't know
Yeah,
how
but
far you
it's
take
not
that.
highlighted every time though.
Yeah,
And
true.
Moten is
Like
also on Kin's side, so he has no reason to really wank Genpo.
yeah, true. But like for example, like the Roboku always saying I underestimated this guy, underestimated this guy. I'm like, dog, yeah, like you lost the exchange.
Yeah,
Um,
technically, if you lose, you are underestimating.
yeah. But for me, the Genpo is strat itself. I just like you said, I agree. I completely agree with everything you said regarding how it's more about the daring aspect, but also he was able to quickly find out. Like we said, we don't even really know the exact details, but was able to like quickly find out where the HQ is, then position himself in areas, get like all that shit that he had to get to that point. Probably like not as impressive. I'm trying to make it, but I still think it's very impressive. But like
Yeah,
also
there was
like the
some like infiltration involved, but we
yeah
just can't really say much about that.
yeah. Also like for me like for that that feat is as impressive as the stuff that happened before and after. It's like he was able to like unless you want to separate those, but he kind of had like he was able to in twofold kill Genpo, and then also like sacrificing his HQ, kind of stalemate them because they don't know where he is. And like they said, if you don't know where Kanki is, they don't know where Kanki is. So for the fact that he was able to stay hidden the entire time after as well, just like a whole, it's like a whole stroke of action that caused Genpo to die and also give Ken a kind of an edge at that point. But
Well, I don't
but
really
the,
consider it sacrificing. I thought he just thought Kaishibo wouldn't destroy him like that, because it really makes no sense to just leave your HQ like that. If you think Kaishibo's actually going to destroy it, you can just have him,
I just
back
don't know
off.
though, because they did say this man. Like, I mean, you could there's different interpretations. I'm pretty sure we talked about this before. It's like he didn't want to face Kaishibu head on because Kanki wasn't underestimating Kaishibu in that sense at that moment, knowing how strong he is. He has
Well,
the
I would
brute
argue that's
strength
more
of
not
Rampa.
underestimating Rempa because you just don't want to waste any manpower against Kaishibo. Just have it for later against Rempa.
Yeah, that's true. So it's like I just feel like it does not like the whole way of Kanki's fighting. It doesn't even equate to having people fight in a head on situation. So like he may think that his people can possibly fucking what's the word hold on Kaishibu for as long as he needs him to come back. But at the same time, he also had like contingency plans of, hey, if it happens, he somehow was able to find Raido and them back. Or not Raido. I'm pretty sure was Zeno there. Like we were always have that argument with Zeno there. We don't really know who was there, but he
It's
was
a
able to
dude that looks like Zeno.
we were always able to like he was somehow able to regroup with his men, so like they had a plan regarding that, as well as he knew what next steps would be if he can't get back to his group, which is like go find the HQ. So
Yeah, I just
that,
don't think attacking the HQ and just having Kaishibo be wary is really anything to really like speak worthy about. Like it's not
yeah,
something of that much note. It's like kind of course I'm gonna do
so
this.
yeah, uh, true, yeah. But I'd kind of just give him the benefit of like he thought ahead of time that he's gonna do that. So they
Yeah,
just all
that's
like
one of those
tied in together.
situations where you used to always like argue about how much of an impact he had. That's one of the
Yeah,
situations where impact doesn't necessarily translate to impressiveness. It's just a situation he happened to be in,
exactly.
which of course was by his own merit. But I'm just saying
Yeah,
after that, like achieving stuff after is just the bare minimum that you should expect from anyone competent.
yeah. I guess like if you summarize that feat, it's just like you were saying, able to like catch Genpo off guard, who's a very adequate strategist himself, and also having the daring to also do it himself. In reality, the, the the most people wouldn't sacrifice their entire army, or not sacrifice, abandon their entire army momentarily to go kill someone themselves. But that's just something that makes Kaki surprising.
Yeah, and also
Yeah,
the just the guerrilla warfare before that. It
exactly.
wasn't
Yeah,
really like
that
touched
was pretty
upon too
sick,
much, but
honestly.
yeah, it
I
could
think that's slept on. Like, even though it's like basic guerrilla warfare, it's just the fact that like no one expected him to be able to stomp Kai Shiba. We're just like he just fucking. I mean, that kind of did. Genpo was like he's just a bad matchup for you, but like even like Kai Shiba probably faced strategists before, good generals before. They probably weren't able to effectively stop him the same way Kanki did, and not just only stop him, just fucking demorale him, which is pretty hard for someone that was under Rempa and shit, under Rempa's tutelage.
yeah, people like Kyo and they were able to go up against 6GG. So, like the four Heavenly Kings in general, they have this belief in themselves that they could at least hold their own against anyone. And which is
Yeah,
why when Kaishibo was getting destroyed, Genpo walked up to him like, "Why is the right hand Meta Rempa rendered so useless? Like, what's wrong with you?"
that line like is a big line because like that it is true. The right hand, and I kind of like we always talk about the thing where it's like easily. I kind of think that was just like light work for Kanki, just fucking
Pretty
just,
much,
just
yeah. To be
dismantling them.
fair, that was the perfect situation for
Yeah.
like it was just a
In
bad
the
matchup for
woods,
Kaishibo in the woods against Kanki. Yeah.
yeah. And people always talk about like Osin is able to like think like go to the highest peak of mountain, basically thinking out his entire plan and shit. Of like, we're gonna do this, then retreat and all that. Just set it up beforehand because he got there first. Kaki did the same thing. Was like when they first saw him, he was like all the way back and he was surveying the entire thing and knowing exactly the right place to be for his battlefield to go in his way. So he
I
kind of
mean,
like
we can't really say much about that because his plans went AWOL. Well, maybe he had like plan Bs and shit, but he wasn't like necessarily expecting Genpo to join it.
yeah, I guess.
But yeah, so like Kaishibo, of course, he's been in a bunch of battlefields, so his scouts should be like at least above average, and they couldn't really
Yeah.
do anything
He fought
to
6 GGs.
Kanki. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, if you want to argue against it, you could say, well, nothing says Kaishibo's elite. I mean, scouts are that special. But at the end of the day, the point is that his guerrilla warfare is impressive and it's amongst the best.
I don't even know if it's amongst the best because like who's better?
That boy Osen,
When
you
did he do
feel
all
me?
guerrilla warfare? Like maybe I'm misrecalling. Was it the same arc or like I don't know?
Damn, you think he needs to do it to be better than Conky? That's tough.
You bitch. Yeah, I'll give him the so-called benefit of the doubt that he's better. Yeah, he does like fighting mountains as well. There's probably like some traps and shit set up there. So we'll see.
But yeah, I mean, I think Osen is probably better at like his maneuvering with guerrilla warfare, but Conky has the benefit of actually torturing people and bringing morale down with it.
Yeah, but would you say when you say maneuvering, do you say like retreating or like what do you mean by that? Just like positioning the people in the right place? Well,
Positioning them at the right place to more efficiently grind out. While
yeah,
Conky
okay,
might be better at retreating because he
yeah.
has that like special bandit
They
style.
can't touch that guy. They can't touch his men. They're fucking. It's like how much credit do you gotta give to Kanki? Because that's like literally that's what they do. That's their, that's how they're raised and shit. As bandits. But he's able to like I guess to refine it to a point where it's like no people like Kaishibu or right hand man of Rempo want to be GOAT, arguably, before you put Osin above him. Fucking useless. But yeah, overall, like looking at this list, I don't know where you have it, but where'd you put it?
Put what, the guerrilla warfare
Genpo.
or the Genpo?
Genpo.
I put Genpo on the same tier as Chogaryu Pinsir Nation unit, so it's an A tier.
Yeah, A tier. I'm looking at this too. Like I barely see any Kanki shit. Like at A plus, I saw like, oh, I see it now. Okay, never mind. But you put Kanki's plan versus Sakai on the same level as fucking Keisha's big ol' just flank. You feel me? I don't
Keisha's
see what your reasoning
flank.
for that.
Where do
On
I have Keisha's flank again? Do I have it in A plus?
the same way, same place, yeah. But I
Okay,
guess
yeah.
because I guess it's impressive because Kanki got dealt by it, which I kind of find weird, but
I mean,
hard.
something like digging a trench, it's just so out of the blue, especially for like a specific spot that you perfectly predict. I just think that's really hard for anyone to counter. And we'll
Yeah.
we'll get into that later, and I think that's part of why Kanki was able to figure out exactly what Keisha's style is, because that was something that was just so impressive that he's like he most likely specializes in this.
Yeah. So what's the next one you want to talk about? I'm
But
in agreement with
let's
you.
just summarize, I guess. So his timing is really good. His daring is very good, which makes him very unpredictable, and not even just like timing in regards to like big moves, just timing in general with guerrilla warfare, like coming in and out at the right times, which like that in itself would speak to his timing and maneuvering in general and shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the next one is Seikai. So the reason I find this to be the most impressive is because the Genpo one, like it's good, but it is also a risk. And there's like many things Genpo could have done if he was vigilant enough to make sure that there's no infiltration.
Yeah.
So for this one, I feel like it's the most realistic scenario because the way he did that shit, like he shot the fire at the bottom, and then he threw the smoke bombs and shit, and then he came out and he just
Killed all
infiltrated
of
past the ranks. Like
Yeah.
unless like you're specifically like unless you specifically somehow think of that exact strat, that situation is not one where you're gonna be like, because of what's happening, I know what he's gonna do. Like it's so out of the fucking blue. Like to begin with, you would never expect someone to use smoke bombs like that, and
Yeah.
yeah, he
It
just
only
made
happened because of what he did prior too. So it's like he kind of set it up.
yeah.
So what do you think of that though? Sorry for the the fact that he had that in place. I can't say he thought about it, but maybe he did. What do you think about that? He had the fire and then he had the smoke as well. Yeah, both.
But yeah, I think I don't think from the beginning he thought he was gonna use smoke in that exact way. Maybe he did, but like the fire pretty much set it up, as you said.
Yeah.
So it shows he does think ahead. He's not just someone that kind of works like an instinctual type. Even
Yeah.
though even though like it didn't seem likely that he would need to use the oil because of course Kankoku Pass is really fucking big. No one thought they were gonna like come up with some contraption to take it. He still brought the oil just in case.
Yeah, he's
Which
he's contingency based, which people don't kind of give him credit for. He has a lot. He enabled in the fact in which enabled him to react to certain things, which is kind of his style. He has to have like contingencies, and he kind of always has at least something up his sleeve. That's what they call him, like the number one turntable or whatever. Kind of
yeah,
fitting of his
he'll
name.
do things where it's like even he thinks he doesn't need to do this, but he'll do it just in case. And that's something that could really help you out against top tiers that can really come up with strategies that are just really hard to predict. But yeah, so just the situation itself, it's just unless you're predicting him coming out to try to slay one of the commanders, him doing this to begin with is just pointless. So it's just so hard to come to the rationale that he shot the fire at the bottom and then he used the smoke screen so he can get to the bottom. Like you'd really have to like go out of your way to think he's gonna do some daring shit in what could be the biggest battle like ever in China. And he's one of the main commanders at the wall, so he would put his side at risk too. And that did come to bite him in the ass because his post got set on fire and shit. So it's just a scenario where it's really hard pressed to predict. He did a really good job of making it seem like it's a realistic scenario. The only thing that you could really go against it is like it was said, he knew that Gohome was too cautious to get caught, but Seikai wasn't. And like of course you can't fault him for taking advantage of Seikai not being smart enough to counter it, but it is one of those situations where it wouldn't really work against someone of a particular level. But the fact that he was able to come up with something so out of the blue and manipulate things to make it seem like a realistic scenario does speak for how unique his tactics are, and you could probably like apply that level of expertise to other unique tactics in general. It just speaks a lot about his ability
His
to
way of
think outside
thinking.
the box. Yeah, his
Yeah,
way of
exactly.
thinking.
I agree with everything you said there. But what would you say like when they were describing, maybe like you probably remember more than me, when they were describing your human being cautious? Was it cautious of something like this happening, or just cautious in general that she just places herself
Well, Gohome
behind?
didn't expect the fire, let alone the fire at the bottom and then the fake smoke.
Yeah,
So I don't think Gohome expected anything like this, like not even
exactly. That's what I'm
close.
saying. So
But
even if those, but they're just inherently those guys are just more cautious. So
yeah,
like
so it's
they'll be
kind of
like,
like what Kanki did with like bringing the smoke bombs and the oil to
yeah,
begin with, just
exactly, yeah.
accounting for like maybe something that you couldn't see coming.
Do you think people like Riboku and stuff like that would be that cautious? Because Riboku has seemed to be daring himself and like position himself. I don't even know if he'd be like, because like Yohime seems like a person that's like she's like a protect the king type thing where she she's all the way like in a safe position because when they get to her, that she really can't do anything. For the guys of like those fighting type that are kind of also smart, they wouldn't be in that same situation as well. But if they were, if Kanki attacks those people, more than likely they probably he can't kill him in time anyway. So either way, I don't think it'd work on him. I agree.
Yeah, well, I would probably say that Riboku would place his HQ back further back like Gohome. And
Yeah,
even if he didn't, I think he would be able to like do some
yeah,
maneuvering. He's not just gonna like
exactly.
send
It'll take too long.
units to just like do standard defense like Seikai did.
Yeah.
But
I just
also Kanki was able to split up his unit, and yeah, like he picked like certain paths that were gonna work out, and
exactly that's very impressive. That's like one of the top things about it.
yeah, that goes
It's like
towards intricacy. Like he's just able to
yeah,
think of a lot of steps to his plan.
yeah. Like yeah, to just like summarize, like it's like the whole thinking outside the box, as well as like something that's unique to him. It's like I don't know if again another top strategist would like go down and do that same thing, because how risky it is. And like they'd be thinking just like you're too hardwired to be thinking like the number one thing is to like save the path. So like if we go down and like leave our fire, like it's kind of a net loss. But the way Kanki thinks is like, yeah, that's fine. What's his name? If we don't lose this, but it's like we eventually have to lose this, so we have to kind of do something big. To, even if we lose this, gain a bit more time. They killed the commander in chief of the entire army, leaving him in disarray,
They
as
also
well as
broke a lot of the
exactly
contraptions that they
taking out
made.
those stuff that was making it very hard. So like, I just kind of like the fact that he's a guy that pushes the envelope, which kind of opens up his entire thinking to a new level that others might not look at, just because they kind of like. I wouldn't say that like I don't like for example Osen, yeah, he doesn't apply to that. But I don't know if like Roboku would be like, hey, it's smart of me to like drop down and go kill that person because probably deems it too risky and too like far fetched. So I might as well play with the safer aspects. Probably will do something else to like delay it, but I wouldn't say in like in that kind of.
I wouldn't
I don't,
rule them out,
would
but
the word
the
be
whole
effectiveness?
way he manipulated people into thinking the siege tower was on fire, it is one of the most unique things in the series.
Yeah, he's just like he has such a great understanding of I guess the psychology of people. So like he can always he kind of like his tool of beating people is just using their brain against them, just fucking with them.
Yeah,
So like
but like the psychology for that part, it wasn't even really what made it impressive. Like mainly the psychology for that would just go, people are gonna be cocky in this situation because they have so many men. They're not gonna be like on lookout, ready for like certain infiltration units. Like the main impressiveness was creating a scenario that seems like the siege tower was actually on fire when it wasn't.
yeah, tricks, tricks up his sleeve. Yeah, I
Tricks
do
are
agree
for
with you.
kids.
I just like I feel like this might be also his best. Like thinking off top, just because it's kind of the easiest to like the four things that you mentioned at the beginning equate to them. His other stuff could be like more impressive in terms of like how effective they were and like what he did, but like there's always like a kind of a caveat there that kind of like makes it less impressive because it's just, for example, like the Kokyo stuff. It's like it's his bread and butter. So like how it's impressive for like a, for the results that happen, but like the effort it took to get there probably not be as impressive as like the thought planning that it took to get there. Won't be as impressive as like the Sakai plane. Sakai killing plan. Just
Yeah.
based off your criteria you put together, I do agree with you. I kind of think it should be higher, but you have him at A plus. Like, you gotta like,
I don't know. I think you can argue it's higher based on how unique it is, and if you apply
yeah.
that level of uniqueness to another strat.
It's like up in the
I just
locust
kind of held it
strap, bro.
back
Like,
because,
no,
well, the locust strat, like for example, it's something you could see working on everyone. The fact that you can't really see this working on everyone, it made me
that
hold
is
it
true.
back a
That is
bit.
true. So yeah, S
But
minus is fair. I just don't want it to be in the same level as like, I do kind of agree why you have it at the same level as Keisha's day one strat and like get Kishin's figuring out Rebuko's plan and just how like outside the box that shit was. I just think in the situation that was there at what's his name, I kind of like place like how dire the situation is and how like the context of that situation to like determine. Like, that's why Locust plan is so impressive due to the way Olsen figured like concocted it at the deep pressure he was on. I kind of like think about the same thing with like what's his name, uh, Kanki and that Sakai playing. Like he had to do like he not really had to do something, but it's like he was getting dire as fuck, and like he just pulled the ace up his sleeve. That was worked to a T almost. Literally, they just stalled back in unscathed.
yeah, well, to me, it's like the situation didn't really matter that much, at least for where I place it. I just think if you want to argue that it's higher than it is, you can just argue the level of skill you need to come up with a
Yeah,
strategy that unique and make it seem that realistic. You can apply that to other plans that in another context would seem more impressive, but it's kind of just hard to think of how you would apply that, which is why I didn't put it higher.
yeah, I agree. I'm not. I. No, I agree. I understand. I understand your reasoning.
So you would put it
I,
like a tier higher.
yeah, I put it like S. It's like the only thing is like S. I kind of see why you have him there, but like I see stuff like what's his name, Rebuko's plan versus the joints. I'm like, you might have to explain it to me, but like I
Well,
don't know how
there's
like
nothing to really explain there because we don't know how it works.
exactly. So yeah, that's all I want to say. Like, why is it S?
I'm just going off
That's how
portrayal.
impressive joints is, right? You saying? Yeah. Okay.
Well, I'm just going off portrayal. One, it didn't seem like Osun
Shagaru
expect.
and them didn't figure it out. Yeah.
Well, yeah, Chogaru and them, but like obviously Riboku was much smarter than that. But mainly because it seemed like, or it took Riboku 3 days to like figure it out. So that by itself, like portrayal, will actually tell you it's something that's extremely difficult to figure out. And it seemed like Osun he didn't expect Riboku to figure out. So to do something that was outside of Osun's imagination, of course, that would be a very impressive strat. So I'm mainly just going off portrayal because
Yeah.
it's hard to like see from his point of view, like because the art like it's not really like that descriptive. You can't gain that much from the art, and that's one of like Kingdom's biggest weaknesses in general. It's like you can't really tell just from the art. Like you have to go off portrayal.
Yeah. To summarize, I'll put it like you have it now at A plus. I'll put it at S minus. I do agree. You won't like just even self-explaining might not work on everybody, but yeah, I also agree what you said about that level of thinking can be applied to stuff that might work on everybody, and it might be it'll create like a feat as impressive, if not more impressive. But we'll never know. We'll probably see it in the future when Kanki takes
Yeah.
massive W.
Also, the just the timing of it. He knew exactly how much time he needed to get to Seikai, and then how much time he needed to escape after, and he pretty much got away scot free. So yeah. But and we
What's the
go
next?
to his last notable feat. Well, the last notable arc, fucking Kokuyo Hills.
Yeah,
So
this is where we have very differences. Keisha was dumb, you know. Oh
yeah, I
shit.
mean that's why I have him figuring out Keisha's nature above the actual plan.
Yeah, I see. I think that was really impressive as well, but I kind of like always go back and forth. Like I'm a Kanki fan, so I always argue for it. But also, wouldn't he have scouting reports on Keisha and how she works? Wouldn't Shohyuken tell him that? You know,
I
or
mean,
like
regardless, like okay, I can understand if you see what Keisha did and you're like that's something he thought of to begin with. He was ready to flank me, had that specific spot to ruin my momentum. He's very defensive minded. And maybe you can glean from that he's instinctual. Maybe not. It's kind of hard to say. But even if I were to give benefit of the doubt to that, using that information that Keisha is very defensive minded, he's very instinctual. Okay, maybe you can say he's the spider type, instinctual type. I'm fine with that. It's just I don't think that in itself gives you the information you need to know to say Keisha doesn't see the Zeno flank coming or that Keisha himself is going to go down there. I just think like again, like you should be able to as Keisha, you should be able to keep all the pieces into account. You should be able to keep the timing into account, how much time it would take a destructive force like Zeno to get there, because you've already experienced Zeno's destructive power firsthand. If he didn't experience it already, I could understand, and I can like give him a little bit of leeway because the way, like the angle at which Zeno attacked, like he like attacked diagonally. It's like such a weird fucking
He
attack
went to his
that,
own people.
yeah, like it's such a weird attack that you don't really experience that much in warfare. So it's not something that you would be able to glean the timing off of from experience, at least not easily. So I can like kind of give him some leeway there, but still, as like it seemed like he didn't like expect Zeno to come at all. So I don't know. Like it is a weird fucking flank to go for, but you should still be able to see all the pieces on the battlefield and say this is a potential flank. If I go down there, it's possible Zeno flanks me.
Yeah, but like here's another thing. Yeah, I agree. What you said exactly, just like diagonal of it. Wouldn't he think that like if he would have like a regular flank, like I would be, I'd be kind of aware of it sooner. So like he didn't get any of those signals till it was too late because of how like it
Yeah, I
happened due to.
think I think if it was a regular flank, he would have probably seen it coming. I'm just saying I don't think it being a diagonal flank is enough to justify Keisha not seeing it. And then I don't think you can like argue in good faith that Kanki just knew Keisha would like not, like you said, he made Keisha dumb. He made him
No, no, I
stupid.
kind of think that's true though, because like that's like a. I agree to you. Like it's the actual plan itself isn't like the craziest thing, but like I feel like it's like if you're able to get Keisha down, you kind of have her already in a what's the word? A vulnerable place, you know. So like even something that might have would not work if it was like a not in a vulnerable state or whatever might work now just because of that. You disagree obviously, but he had her rattled, bro. It's just like how, and that's
Yeah,
like
but
really
man, you could be rattled and you don't have to go there yourself. You don't have to take the risk. You can just
yeah,
say, fuck you, Kanki. I'm going to take out the Aishin unit because you're pissing me off and you're pretty much safe. And like
exactly.
you
Him
can be
going
rattled
down there, I
and
cannot explain. That is yeah, that is a part that I cannot explain. He just fucking he just dangled that. Just shows maybe it's hard as telling. Just Kaki's understanding of the person he's facing. He'd want to do it himself, you know. Maybe because he went down to the first time as well. So like he comes down just to like do it like the actual action of cutting something off, like cut off his arm. He did it. Cut off shit. Hydrogen unit. He would
yeah,
do it
but
himself.
then it would just go back to the first thing where you can only justify it if you think it's justifiable for Kanki to think Keisha doesn't see the flank coming. And I just can't see it. Like, diagonal or not, flustered or not, like, you still should be able to think.
They did kind of like hide like you know like in sports and shit you can hide a certain player like it's like Steph Curry you hide him because like he's not a good defender or like you use a lot of like maneuvering. Yeah, that does not really apply here because they didn't really use much maneuvering, but they did have Zeno all the way. They last seen he was like in the front of the Rido troops, and he dropped back and shit. So like they're like he's all the way over there. Like it's the whole timing aspect. I do agree with you. Like he didn't think he would get there as fast. So like do the diagonal parts of it. That's what's like they kind of underestimated Zeno's like speed and because like they are very fast and shit. So like they kind of underestimated speed as well as the direction he took. So Kangi was super confident they'll get there in time before they regroup. But like you're saying that you're basically saying it doesn't matter about that time. You should have known the flank was a possibility.
Yeah, like, it seemed like he didn't even think, like, Zeno himself coming there was going to be a possibility. It wasn't like, oh no, he got there faster than I expected. It just seemed like just the action of Zeno flanking was something that he was like, oh shit, this is what happened? Like,
Okay,
just go ahead.
do you think that like, for example, Kanki already had Zeno move? I mean, he did have him moving before his Keisha already went down, so he kind of had like a at least a level of timing of when it will happen because he had Zeno moving from where Rado was to like near Kokio and stuff. Feel me?
Yeah,
So like,
Zeno was around Rido's area, but Keisha would have to, go down first because he'll see Zeno coming.
yeah, I was saying he moved him after before that. He moved him. He before even Keisha went down, he had Zeno go to Kokio, like walk by Kokio. I remember like, oh Zeno, and they're like, I'm passing through or whatever, and that's when they attacked. So Kanki kind of had the timing of it down like to the when it normally might happen. I might be misremembering, but that's what I remember
No, you
reading.
got that right, but it's just at that point Zeno was already kind of told to stay back. So
Yeah,
it was already a situation where like I don't really know the exact area where the Zeno clan is, which
yeah,
puts them in a perfect situation to just aid anyone or be anywhere like relative to like in between Kokyo
yeah.
and Raido.
Maybe she thought that due to the fact that she didn't know exactly how close he was, he's closer than she last had him reported, which was at Raido, and the fact that what's his name, the con the the Shin's army was fucking about to get like pincered and like a meat grinder. She was like, I can kill him quick enough. Like I don't know. That's the only thing I could say about that. So Kanki would have to have known the timing wouldn't be fast enough for Keisha to do that. He had faith in Shin to hold off long enough for Zeno to come. But like I do like talking about it more and more. The actual action, like I do agree with you. It's like the plan itself was like hinging on fucking basically doing nothing part. He basically understood Keisha to a T to a point he can remove her from her nest. That's what I find the most impressive. The way they kind of portrayed it. You know, you talked about portrayal earlier with the joints formation, but it's like not a clear cut portrayal. But it's like portrayal saying like Revoku had trouble in board games removing her, but I would say like a regular fight would be harder because like there's a lot more at stake.
Well, yeah,
You know?
just figuring out like having to get the spider out of the nest. That's part of what I put into him figuring out Keisha's style.
Exactly. So I do agree with you being it being higher. The actual plan itself to kill Keisha, like the actual like maneuvering of it, wasn't that crazy. Besides the time, the knowing the exact timing of when she would go down, because he had Keisha ready. Oh, what's
Yeah, I
his
don't know.
name?
It's a weird situation because it's like Keisha, he would he would expect something, and it would be a situation where it's like Kanki. It can't be something that basic because he's putting so much on the line, and he's kind of like daring you to like try his bluff. So like you can argue Keisha psyched himself out like that, and
Yeah,
maybe like told himself that it can't be something as basic as Zeno attacking. But I don't know. It's just
it's
you,
like if he was gonna flank, why didn't he flank yesterday when he had the exact amazing opportunity to do so? Like, nah, he wouldn't just. If he's not doing it then, he probably wouldn't do it now. Like, type like he fucked with him. He did what he hated, versus like not
yeah, I
makes
can
sense.
understand Kanki like messing with his mind. It's just under any circumstance, you should still be able to gauge like what Kanki's possible. Like what can he do at this time? Like what are his options? And he
Like
has
the
very
way they
clear
made it
options.
seem like
They're clearly limited. So the
yeah,
fact that they're so limited, you should be able to focus on what little options he has.
the way they made it seem like though is like even fucking Kishu was like, okay, Gonki, if you're gonna stay not doing anything, be my guest. Like they just like kind of assumed he won't do anything. It doesn't mean that they didn't have it like in the back of their mind. He'll do something. At least Kishu had no idea what he'll do. Kishu's pretty impressive. He's like 4 Heavenly King level. But he just
Speaking of Kisui, something that I did find underwhelming in that arc, and this kind of goes back to exactly the Zeno situation where I'm like, it would have been a lot better if he didn't experience Zeno's strength firsthand. Maybe you can like argue that Zeno wasn't going all out in the first day, and then that's what caught him off guard. But it's like a similar situation with Kisui with like him versus Kokuo, where they witnessed Kisui's strength. So
yeah,
for Kanki to get caught off guard by Kisui being able to hold back the Zeno clan, it's like,
yeah.
I mean, you kind of already witnessed his strength. I would buy it a lot more if you didn't.
I just think it's like was like a. I mean, yeah, plot is part of like what we used to rank stuff, but like it just needed like Kisui to be hyped up a bit more, so I made it that way. But like I felt like after the first couple of times Kisui fucked him over, like fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, shame on you. Like I was just not thinking he would get fooled twice by that. But he
Yeah,
kind of
but,
did.
but I guess at this point, with how close Zeno was to Keisha, you can't really blame him for like not having the most like pinpoint precise timing ever. Like his timing was still good. It just wasn't good enough.
Yeah, I just also think that like what's his name, Kisui like they thought that even if Kisui came, like the three people you kept memeing me about, like Zena would get through them. But I guess he didn't. It's unfortunate.
Zeno can't get past three people in the time it takes Kisu to descend a hill.
I'm
I,
telling you, bro, those guys are fast.
I guess Keisha just kept retreating as more soldiers filled up the space that Zeno took out. I don't know.
What's that like? I don't like. I just yeah, I do agree with you. I don't know why. Like it's the same reason why we didn't think like why wouldn't Keisha know about that? Why didn't Kanki kind of like? I just feel like he did, but like again, he underestimated him because Kisu did go like above and beyond what he showed with Kokyo there. Like he went down, tanked that attack from Zeno, pierced them, and he was actually doing damage to them. Like, and Zeno was like your strongest ace up your sleeve. So for Kisui, like, was
Yeah,
one
I
thing.
guess Zhao horses are known for being fast, so maybe he was a bit faster than Kanki expected because he did bolt down that fucking hill.
Yeah, that's
And
just crazy.
yeah, and he survived the encounter with Zeno and his
Just
morale boosting.
bullshit.
At this point, his morale boosting was probably better than it was against Kokuo because, of course, it's a more drastic situation. So I guess he did kind of go like even further beyond than what you would expect based on the Kokuo situation, but it's still a situation where it's like Kisui is clearly special. It's not really far fetched to assume that he could be a major thorn on your side if you're trying to do this.
I have a question though. Like, you have it's like just to pick your brain about this comparison. You have like hold up. I don't know where you have this, but like Osen's plan against Riboku first day with the whole like having Moten be over there, then using him to bait out Riboku Kisui's troops, then using Mako with the wave formation to crush them, and all that. Wouldn't you kind of think it's similar, like to what the Kanki did with Zeno? It's like Mako was hidden, so they didn't really know where it would come from. Same with
Yeah, but it's just the timing is so insane.
yeah,
Well,
it's fucking insane. You're right.
yeah, the
As
timing
soon as
is
he
like
turned away,
like alien levels. Like
as
it
soon as
was
he
literally
turned,
perfect, bro. Like as soon as he turned, that's when Mako came.
yeah, Mako's like, oh that fucking bastard called it, bro. He
And,
was
and
just
and the fact that Moten knew exactly what Osen like he expected it. Well, not expected him to know, but exactly what Osen's plan was. It would kind of imply that Moten knew like the exact manner in which Osen expected Moten to perform the guerrilla warfare. So like he kind of like predicted what Moten would do to a T, like literally the exact timing of it, and
yeah,
like the
that was very
exact maneuvering
impressive.
of it.
I want to see how Kanki would utilize guerrilla warfare in like flat terrain. Probably do with like kind of just show it a bit with the marauding cavalry troops that would come in and like hit you, leave, come in, fuck you up. I don't know. I don't. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, and we can move on to the
Yeah, quick
Kisu
question.
plan.
What
Go
if
ahead.
like, what if till the end of time Kanki's fighting in the woods, bro? Like I'm like,
That would
bro.
be so trash, bro. I would despise Conky versus whoever in flat terrain arguments.
Yeah, I was just like, yo, fuck that. But yeah, I was kind of talking about that Kisui shit with like, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. Which was literally what happened. He was like, this fucking guy, bro. Like twice, fuck you. And then he decided he went after him, and that shit was. I don't. I want you to explain to me how impressive you think that is, because like that can be argued, but I want to see it in comparison to your criteria that you put up.
I mean, the point of this isn't really to like compare it to other things, but I'm just gonna say that it does cater towards Conky's specialty,
Exactly.
and I feel like it was negligent on Kisui's part to not expect something like targeting the city. But I can like kind of understand because the city's so far out there, and like you're kind of limited on time, so you're like, shouldn't Conky go for the hills? But just the fact that he's not going for the hills, it should like kind of lead you towards any other possibility to what would make this make sense. And like I said, like I get the city being so out there, like most people wouldn't even like have it in their minds, but I still feel like it's more negligence on Kisui's part. And maybe you can argue that Conky he predicted that Kisui would be that negligent, or that not even that because he didn't really have much options regardless. But it's just another situation where you're taking advantage of someone just not being that great. And of course, that's no fault of your own. Like, of course, you would do that, but it doesn't really speak towards
How
what you would
impressive.
do in like harder situations. But yeah, like it is something that speaks to how unique he is capable of thinking,
Yeah,
and it did like garner great effectiveness. He saved a lot of men doing it, but I think this is another situation where the overall result makes it seem like it's more impressive than it actually was.
that's exactly what I was gonna say. It's like one of those things where it's like the portrayal of the actual achievement itself makes it seem like, wow, this man saved a shit ton of our men, had them reinforce the hill, saving us time and resources, and then still fucking defeated them, like off just one move of like understanding Kisu to the level of this shit will work on him. That's dope. And also just like what may kind of makes it impressive is like I do agree with you. It's like his outside of the box thinking. They kind of give it the portrayal of like these guys might think about it, but they won't do it. So it kind of gives Kanki like a. I mean, we don't really have much of his like normal regular feats, but I also kind of do think that he's his. We both kind of agree he's regular, non like these gimmick. You call it gimmick feats. are also going to be on that great level. You kind of did see it with the Sekai plan, but like he's able to do that while also having the wherewithal to like, yeah, I can I can go the fastest possible route to win here without actually fighting somebody over a hill. It was dope.
Yeah,
Kind of
so
unique thing.
we'll kind of like go into just summarize territory now. So this is the biggest problem with Kanki. Like one,
Lack of
his
people.
plans aren't super intricate compared to other shit we've seen. And like I said, like lack of intricacy doesn't necessarily mean like it's less smart, but you would want shit to be more intricate. That's one thing. And two is competition. And
Facts.
I don't think it's like because other situations like Osin versus Ordo, I think you can argue that anyone could fall for that. But these like the situations we talked about aren't really situations where that would be a good argument to take. Like against Seikai, against
I think
Keisha,
Kanki
against
also.
Kisui. Like it's all him taking advantage of someone not being at a certain level where they could really fuck with him. While with Ordo, like of course he couldn't fuck with Osen's intelligence either, but like the scenario that Osen created, like it just seems so plausible that it's really far fetched for anyone to assume like this is all according to his machinations.
I think like Kanki's Ordo is Keisha. That was like the one time he like the same way Osen kind of got like he underestimated Ordo because he was able to scale the mountain so effectively. Keisha
Well, it
didn't
was
really.
all according to his plan the entire time.
Yeah. So like I do agree with you. It's like Kanki is like blessed the whole meme blessed with easy opponents, but that doesn't kind of take away how like impressive he has shown he's able to think and how unique it is, which is like you were saying with the Sakai plan, you kind of can apply it to future
Yeah,
matchups.
it's just the problem is it's like the Seikai plan and then figuring out Keisha's weakness so easily. It's like these things are like abstract and hard to apply to other
Exactly.
situations. While like other things like
You
having
can kind of still
formations,
apply that like that outside of the box thinking, which like he's good for. But
yeah,
like
but it's
I
hard to like
can't
apply it
confirm if
like
it will work or not.
yeah, you can't
Kind of
like really
situation.
create a scenario where you would be like because he has this, I'm gonna say he beat someone like this,
It's
and
like
that
fucking Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah, the trap card. Like
yeah, and that's really the problem. Like people like Osen, like they have actual formations which Kanki he's like lacking in formational feats. Like he has that one against Rinko, but uh, that's like the type of formation where it's like taking advantage of having way more men than your enemy. So he lacks intricacy to a certain extent. He doesn't really have formations like that. He doesn't have like flat terrain feats in general where you would really like yeah, outside of the box is like a big part in it, but also like timing feats. Like he doesn't really have anything like as insane timing wise as Osen with like the Mako situation, though he has like implications of having great timing, like with the guerrilla warfare, and then knowing exactly how much time he needs to get the Seikai and then escape. So there's implications of having a really good knack for timing, and I'm sure, like I'm sure it's great because he's fucking Kanki, but it's just hard to apply like the most impressive part of his feat to situations where you can really use to argue like he's better than X, and that's really like the main problem with him.
yeah, to like just add on to what you're saying. It's oh sorry, I was gonna say like we always had this conversation. It's like Kanki had his own art. Kanki had this and Kanki had that. But like when you like look down, like look at it, it's like he has quantity, but he doesn't have like a breadth of quality, like a different like scenarios like you were saying with Osen. Osen made like he has his own arc as well. Like they have one arc to one arc, obviously one being way bigger. But even before that, like you see Osen do like a multitude of like things. He does like a intricate timing plan or whatever. He does psychological warfare. He does that. But Kanki is kind of like he kind of does the same outside of the box thinking every time. So it's like you don't get. He's like the way I would say he doesn't get like a multi view look on him. Whereas like people like
Yeah, it's kind of like
Roku
the
on
same, like just target the enemy
yeah,
commander somehow type of thing.
exactly yeah. Whereas Osen and Uroku they get like multiple scenarios, and even mobile they get like multiple scenarios in which they can like do something. And you say like, hey, you kind of like even though you've seen more of Kanki, you know more of their like, capabilities because they've been more different situations. If that makes sense.
Nah, I
Which is
understand.
why I keep saying, bro, when he gets his own, like, yeah, he had his own arc, but his actual arc, like, I keep thinking he'll take an L on, which he won't. Mark that down. We're gonna get his whole armies like Zeno. How strong Zeno is. He's gonna fight. He's gonna face like a Manu type and fuck him up. He's gonna like we're gonna show like Kanki actually get a good opponent to the point where like he gets a good opponent and he still makes it look easy. like, and then possibly maybe lose to like someone like Ruboku. But even if he does lose to Ruboku, it's gonna be like to a point where like someone had to lose, and it happened to be Kanki. Ruboku's that dude. He's like top 3 in the verse. So like no shame in losing to him.
But I mean, I pretty much agree with what you're saying. I've always said that people sleep on his traditional tactics. There's no
Facts.
way, like, because it's so weird what people say. It's like they're like, well, he sucks at traditional tactics, but he's so godly at psychological warfare that he's just gonna get almost everyone. Like he's gonna surprise him and like kill him or something. I'm
Yeah.
like, well, you're wanking his what he's shown, and then you're
Pretty lazy.
underestimating what he hasn't shown.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just kind of like this is what people do, like where they see someone pull something off and they're like they'll just do this, and they only limit what the person could do to that, and like all their predictions are like he'll do this, like with Riboku for example, like they see Riboku do Ryudo, and like someone had like the most
I remember that.
yeah the most brain dead fucking take. It's like Riboku's gonna do a giant Ryudo and it's gonna cover the whole Shukai plains. Like, are you
I
fucking kidding me?
Yo, was that the legendary Pyro 444 or 666?
I,
Or no,
I don't know. I don't know.
yeah, he's gonna do a legend like a massive ass Rudo, and it's gonna combine the left, the right, and the middle. Not that there's trees and some fucking hills there, but yeah, that'll work.
Yeah, and like there's people that for almost all Riboku like battlefield scenarios they're like he's gonna do Ryudo, he's gonna do Ryudo, he's gonna do Ryudo. Like they only fucking say what the person has done because they just lack creativity. And I get it to a certain extent, like you don't want to create headcanon, it's hard to envision like a full on battle. But it's just so lazy where people want to downplay Kanki's traditional tactics even though we haven't seen them. So there's no real reason to downplay them because he wasn't taught tactics in general, but he was able to come up with great shit, obviously. And they'll just wank what he has because that's what has gotten hyped up. And it's just so like, it's just so out of touch with reality. Like, it's just not realistic.
Yeah, I do agree with you, and like I'd say I do agree with you, but like that's I was a kind of a person like that when I first started arguing. He would just psychologically warfare him, dog. He would just fuck him up. But like in reality, A, that's boring, and B, that's like just doesn't really add anything to the conversation because it's like you're not saying, you're not like giving examples of what he'll do or like
Yeah,
he
and you
can't.
can use psychological warfare for formations and shit to like bait them into a certain position to use formations. It's just, yeah, we need to see more from him. But
Yeah,
there's also like clear limits. Like he hasn't been like no limits in like any scenario. Like the locust plan, he did not figure that out until like later. So
I kind of think he kind of knew, but like he just kind of
uh-huh.
contradicts me. It's weird with Kanki, bro. It's like he kind of did know, but like we don't really know if Ocean really told him that he has people inside. Like why wouldn't he? But like why they showed every briefing? Like it's like a back and forth with that. Like more than likely he did. But I'm like as a Kanki fanboy, I'm like he just read. Like him and Ocean are just such in tune with each other that he knew he had people in there. And he knew the exact timing which they should be getting now, and he knew exact timing that Olsen is gonna come back and all that stuff. That's just me giving him the benefit of the doubt. 'Cause I'm a fan, but you can't
Mm,
really say that.
mm.
Overall, like
Yeah, go ahead.
overall, it's like in this channel I always like Wayne Conky, but like I'm not, that's A to troll people like T Whale, and B just cause like I kind of feel like he slept on a lot, so I just kind of counter troll by winking him a lot. But overall, I have him like a top 10 general in the series. But like I do agree, like the guys of like Rempa, Osen, Riboku, Mobu, and them, they're above him. I'm not gonna sit here and argue that against it. I just think
Well,
it's
I
the case.
think Mobu is arguable, but the reason we always fucking get into cancerous arguments regarding Kanki is because you want to take the lazy way out of well, I don't even know if it's the lazy way out because it's the only thing you can use, but you go like he has feet, and then I argue like his feet are not as impressive as you think, and then you kind of like assume that's me saying he's just not that impressive, or I'm just saying he has more to show, and so then we just
Definitely.
argue about what his feats are, and like you see where I have his feats, and they're not like the best. Like his best feat is like on par in that tier list with Chogaru and Riboku's plan to take out Ohan. So like someone could see that and be like, you think Kanki's only as good as Chogaru? Where it's like, no, he just has better shit that he hasn't shown. But yeah, like I just don't like he has like a good amount of feats, but I just don't think they've been the most impressive, though it's debatable. But yeah,
Yeah,
like I think you can argue the Sekai thing is S minus. I don't really think you can have a good argument
Mobu,
for anything else being S minus.
Mobu debatable. Something happened in this recent arc because you've always been like a Mobu over Conky train.
But I always said they've been debatable though. I've just always been
Oh,
confident in Mobu being better. I mean, I just don't put Mobu in like the same tier as like a Osen or a Rempa.
Yeah, but you put Kanki there, right? You
Uh-huh.
know?
Yo, already better than Gakugi, the GOAT?
Yeah. No, Gakuki, bro, that's something else. I wish you get more about him because like he's literally the most slept on character in any tier list you've ever made. The God of War Dog, he held on the entire balance versus the six GGs and shit.
Just because I don't have him at the very highest tier.
Yep.
One tier below and the most slept on character ever. Give
It's
me a
like
fucking
going back to
break.
what you were saying about how I kind of take the lazy way out. Just like it's like I kind of stopped doing. I think it was something I'm trolling, but like I take the super defensive stance with him because I kind of he gets shit talked a lot. So
Well,
like
to be fair to you, real quick, it's because you have a certain like perception of what Kanki at his max potential is, but people obviously don't want to give him the same benefit of the doubt. So you're like, well,
yeah
if you're not going to give him the same benefit of the doubt, then I'm just going to argue using what he has because I feel like I can make an argument for that to kind of
yeah
like bump him up to where you think someone should like bump him up to, like assuming they give similar benefit of the doubt, and you think giving him that benefit of the doubt isn't like preposterous or anything, but they just disagree. So you're like, all right, I just gotta like approach this in a different way.
yeah. You can end it here, or you have any more to say? 'Cause I don't. Kanki the goat.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, we could get into comparisons, but I feel like it's just better to leave it off like talking about the feats as they are.
Yeah.
Even though like a lot of feats in Kingdom, it's like you have to use portrayal and bring comparisons to really put into light how impressive they are. But I feel like we did a decent job at explaining how we think Kanki fares, or not how he fares, just how he is in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. You know what you should do? Just suggestions like have like a top. You know, you can do tier list now instead of lists. But like have like only a live tier list of only the top tiers, like 15 names, and then we could have like we have the clear Osins and Rempas and Rebokus and them, but like we'd have like an argument debating like Kanki or Karen or something like that. So like or like those mid tier, not mid tier, but like the way you call them, like lower top tier or something, not goat tier, and then debate those. I want to like compare Kanki and Karen and shit because I kind of think Kanki is better than Karen. Not kind of, I do think, but it's like not to take anything away from Karen. Just like I give Kanki the benefit of the doubt on his feats and shit.
Yeah, I always gave Karen the benefit of the doubt because I think her feat in Coalition is more impressive than anything Conky's done. And it's like an extremely impressive feat just on its own. And I always thought she would have a certain portrayal because she's the big bad at Chew, but then I don't really want to get into why I don't believe that anymore, but
Oh no, let's take those. We take those.
yeah,
Uh,
and her not seeing Shoikun's plan coming kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. But they're
yeah,
still like neck and neck. They're still neck and neck for me. But yeah, I mean,
good discussion.
yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm kind of interested to see Twale like fucking watch over this, and he's gonna come in like I
He's not even
disagree
gonna
with
watch the
literally
first.
everything
Like,
y'all said.
he's gonna come in here after he watches me calling him out at the beginning. I don't know if you recorded that. But what the
I
fuck?
did, I did. He's gonna come in. I disagree with literally everything, every single thing.
I remember like you asked me. I was like, "You trying to do this?" I'm like, uh. I'm not really in the mood to like argue over every fiber of Kanki's feats was like Tale and shit. But it was like
Yeah,
a
I'm
mellow.
interested in how Twale would respond to this because I feel like we've been pretty fair in everything we said. I
Yeah.
don't think Twale would disagree necessarily with much of what we said. It just comes when you're like comparing, because then at that point, like Twale might have other ideas of how impressive what X did, like Karin is, compared to what he did, and like other characters. But like on their own, like we kind of like made general statements like he's really good at thinking outside the box. Like it's kind of hard to disagree with that, and we just kind of put what we thought that means into other terms. And yeah, that's what Twilight might disagree with, but I don't know. We'll have to see his reaction if he does watch this. But yeah, at the end of the day, Kanki he's not Osen, he's not Riboku. He might be like right behind them, but I don't see it. But as of right now, I put him like on a similar tier with others like Shoheikan, for example, and Karin around that area. But yeah, I would just end it at that.